That's my impression of the song that's playing right now.
I always forget that you insert music before
at the beginning and end.
At the very beginning. Yeah. And so when I'm listening to it on the when it's finished, I'm like,
we
have music.
We got music. Shoot, I don't remember that.
I don't remember that at all. But we are back once again for another episode of Cinema Discovery Project. I'm Andrew Cabral with my co-host Stephen Billings.
Hello.
And it's been 2 weeks, but it feels like we just did this yesterday.
It's because when you're in when you're inside all the time and you're not doing things, the lines just blur like a David Lynch movie.
Oh yeah, time has no meaning anymore. Time was kind of a relative thing to begin with, and now it's just like relativity dialed up to 11.
Yeah.
It's like one day rolls into the other. Like, for example, like we're recording this and tomorrow's already May, and it doesn't even feel like it's May already. And it's just absolute weirdness when it comes to time. But what's not weird is that we're going to be talking movies.
Oh, that's nothing weird about that shit.
That seems to be the only thing that has any sense of normalcy left in the world, is that Stephen and I get to talk about movies all the time. But this week's episode, the main topic and what we really want to focus on is the idea of first movies, or directors' first movies. Because as we all know, everyone has to start somewhere.
Yes.
And we're going to be pretty much talking about, I would say, the good ones? I don't know if I want to say that.
Obviously, we're going to focus on the first movies, like the best debuts.
Yes,
the best director debuts. And unfortunately, it's hard to really navigate and find like some really you could, but like it would take like some deep research to find great debuts that are not by great directors. There's some that we have probably, I'm sure, but
well, I would say this just as a caveat: not every great director has had a great debut.
A lot of times it's the
ones.
opposite. A lot of times the first movie of a great director is not. It's like okay, and then it takes them a movie or two to get into their groove.
Well, you go back and sometimes if you're doing a deep dive into someone's filmography, you go back to those first movie or two or three or whatever, and you're like, really, this was what such and such was doing? Because you have this perception of them being so amazingly great now that you go back and you're like, oh, they're awful, they're terrible. And probably at the time, that's perhaps what people thought. And then little did they know that these individuals would go on to have great careers.
Well, just like just like us as people, it takes experiences and learning the craft, learning how to live and how to live in that world, and figuring out what your strengths are as a director and storyteller, and sometimes it takes a couple movies to figure that out, and
it really does.
And I think that our list will probably have a lot of great filmmakers that are known for being great, but I think we got a few that did one great one to begin and then never went anywhere.
Well, the way we have like each of us to try to get 5 main ones, but obviously doing a bunch of research, you realize there's a lot more than 5 great debut films.
Oh yeah.
So we'll just kind of bounce back and forth and throw out.
We're going to throw as many out there as we can
and whatnot. And that's kind of how this episode's going to go. So it'll be a little less structured than some. Granted, we don't have much of a structure to begin with.
Yeah, we're pretty loose. But
pretty loose.
Before we jump into it, I do want to remind people, hey, give us some love on the internets. Go to the Apple Podcast and rate us. We'd love to hear from you. Leave us a review. Let us know if we suck. We'll take it. We'll take it like a champ. Also, Podbean. If you use Podbean, go there. Give us some reactions. Dan Skip Allen always leaves us a comment. We should read some of them. Next time I'll try to remember to read his comment from last week. He usually leaves us something. So. But as we start, let's get in the Cinema Discovery machine here, and I don't know where we're going because we could go anywhere.
We could literally go anywhere. Let me look at my. I don't know if you want to start or if I want to start. Let me look at my list.
I can start if you want me to.
Sure, sounds good.
I thought this is a great director. This is, I think, maybe one of the best debuts ever.
Oh.
And that is Sidney Lumet's 12 Angry Men.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is interesting is we probably should have really conferred about each other's lists because I had it on mine.
Well, I mean, we're not expecting to have completely different lists.
Right.
I'm just picking random ones out of my list. I have literally picked 30 movies here.
Wow. You picked literally one of the best ones to start out with, like the tippy top.
Yeah, I picked tippy top. We can go from anywhere from here. We can fall down to the bottom. We can, catch a twig on the way down and be like, nope, right here. So, yeah, I mean, 12 Angry Men, this is a movie literally takes place in one room. It's a play. And basically these 12 people are trying to decide the fate of a young man who they think maybe murdered somebody. We don't really know. So it's honestly, it's just one of the best, tightest scripts, just well acted movies ever. And to be able to get that many great performances in one movie and keep the intensity in that one room for an hour, almost 2 hours? Isn't it almost 2 hours long?
The movie is an hour and 36 minutes.
Okay, it's an hour and a half.
So it's even tighter than you would think. But it moves like nothing.
Yeah, it's a beautiful movie.
And it's an amazing movie. I've watched it so many times. There is a Blu-ray available through Criterion. There's a DVD counterpart as well. I mean, the cast of the movie: Martin Balsam, John Fiedler, Lee J. Cobb. Lee J. Cobb is one of my favorite character actors because I've never seen him in a role where he hasn't yelled his lines out loud. It was kind of like, how people give Pacino crap for doing it now.
Hoo-ha!
He was doing this throughout his entire. Lee J. Cobb was doing it throughout his entire career. It's amazing. But Jack Warden's in the film. Jack Klugman, Henry Fonda, Ed Begley. It's a tight film dealing with a lot of great themes. And yeah, it's a stage play, so the dialogue is incredible. And yeah, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. There's an astonishing film. I highly recommend it. Just can't recommend it enough. I guess if you want to transition to me,
it's my turn again. No,
oh, you want to go double time? Well, I'm not going to start out as high as Steven because that's, he went straight out the gate swinging for the fences. I'm going to go with something a little more low-key.
Andrew has this thing where he's like, he wants things to be in a certain order. He probably wanted me to start at the very bottom and work all the way.
Well, I like to build up to a finale, a crescendo.
This isn't a fireworks
like a concert. Show. Yeah, you don't start when you go to a concert. You don't start out with your hits right away.
Let's do this in movie. In movie, when you're making a movie, a lot of times you want to engage the audience right off the bat. That's how I'm thinking.
True.
That's how I'm thinking.
Okay. So I'm gonna since Steven went high, I'm gonna go slightly lower, and it's not even lower. I'm gonna go a little under the radar.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm gonna go with Slacker. By Richard Linklater.
Okay.
Because it's a movie that is so influential on a whole generation or movement of filmmakers that I just find it so unique and so fascinating. And the movie itself is just different. I've never seen a movie quite like it. There's no plot to it whatsoever. The way the movie is structured is that you're moving from one person to another just in this place, in this urban area. You're just seeing people just talking and interacting with one another and saying stuff, and there's no characters in it. It's just a series of situations that can be about anything. And it starts out coincidentally with Richard Linklater himself getting off a plane and getting into a taxi and just talking about philosophy or something, and then the camera will move to someone else and they'll pick up and do something. It's just incredible. And I always remember going back and watching it and being initially being unsure about what type of what I'm getting myself into, but over the years I've appreciated it much more. The film came out in 1990, so we're talking 30 years ago. But it's the start of that whole movement, and I think it's a pretty bold debut from a filmmaker who always does his own thing for the most part. That's the one thing I think Steven and I have understood about Richard Linklater, is that he's hardly ever really done a movie that he hasn't felt has been something from him directly. You know, he's very much an auteur. But I really like Slacker, so I thought I had to mention it.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you would say that this is lower or if this is high.
We're gonna stop ranking these.
This is definitely it's you could say it's a monumental film. Its influence is there. It's one of the biggest influencers, I would say, and that is Night of the Living Dead. George A.
Nice.
Romero here.
Talk about starting a genre.
Yeah, I mean, for a debut, I mean, of course, if you've seen any special features or anything, how shoestring of a budget this was. This, made from nothing.
Talk about one location.
Yeah, one location.
It's a house.
Yeah, a house. Where did they shoot? Didn't they shoot in Pittsburgh? Was it Pittsburgh?
Maryland, Pennsylvania?
But it was they kind of did the whole guerrilla thing, or they just went to a cemetery and shot in the cemetery and just but there's a lot of non-actors, right? People,
Oh yeah, there's no one in it who's of any note in terms of no stars or anything like that.
But obviously,
I'm trying to see where it was actually shot.
Night of the Living Dead kind of codified that genre, the zombie, genre. A lot of the roles that you get from a lot of zombie films come from this. The Walking Dead, very highly influenced.
Oh, of course. Oh, and it was Pennsylvania. It's Pennsylvania. Yeah, mostly Pennsylvania. There's one part here that says Washington, D.C., but it's mostly Pennsylvania. But the movie is, as Stephen was saying, it set a lot of the ground rules for what the subgenre of zombie movies would become. And now there were, I did a whole review of the Criterion Blu-ray, so I kind of got into it. But before this, there were movies that had to deal with the undead, but not quite like this. Yeah. There were movies where the dead would come back to life through voodoo magic or something like that, or ghosts or things like that. But this movie really kind of, created the modern zombie that we know. And of course, George A. Romero would go on to pretty much do a lot of horror throughout his career and kind of go back and revisit the zombie genre a few times, like Day of the Dead, and all that kind of stuff, and Dawn of the Dead and stuff like that. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because the movie's so low key. There's no real frills to it or anything. It's so, like Steven said, guerrilla and low budget. It's
very much more about the people, which is why it really influences the Walking Dead. The zombies are part of that show, but it's not. It's about how the people react to the situation more than anything.
Right.
But it's a movie that maybe a lot of people today would find slow or boring, but
yeah.
It's definitely, if you're a zombie or even a horror fan, really just a film fan in general, it's kind of, I think you need to watch it.
I think it's definitely important for that genre as a whole.
It's also important that because the lead is a black man. That it's not something also that happened a lot then.
This is also 1968, so we're talking the civil rights movement era.
Yeah, you had Sidney Poitier. That was about it.
yeah, Sidney Poitier was around. You had Harry Belafonte, Sidney Poitier. Yeah. So, transitioning over to me now, I'm kind of a little over the map, but I'm gonna go with The Virgin Suicides, which is Sofia Coppola's first film. Now, with Sofia Coppola, a lot of people remember her second film and talk about that a lot more, Lost in Translation, with Scarlett Johansson and Bill Murray. That movie seems to get talked about a lot when they bring up Sofia Coppola. But for me, The Virgin Suicides is amazing. The movie came out in 1999, starred very young Kirsten Dunst, and she's worked with Sofia Coppola a couple of times after.
She was my crush.
I think she was a lot of crush for a lot of people.
Still
from our
maybe
generation.
A little bit.
I think we kind of grew up with her. And,
we saw her in Jumanji, and we saw her in Small Soldiers.
Small Soldiers, and then of course Spider-Man. When we were all, when the first Spider-Man came out, I was 15.
Yeah.
or whatever. So we were all young. But Kirsten Dunst has been working with Sofia Coppola throughout her career. She worked with her in Marie Antoinette, as well as the most recent film,
Beguiled.
The Beguiled, and so they have a good working relationship with one another. But this film is just incredible in so many ways. The thematic depth in this film is so haunting and so, I think, relevant that it blew me away when I first saw it. For those of you who don't know this movie, I'll just read the synopsis from IMDb for you. A group of male friends become obsessed with 5 mysterious sisters who are sheltered by their strict religious parents in suburban Detroit in the mid-1970s. And what's so fascinating about that is the film is dealing with this idea of just social repression and oppression, and just forcing people just to be so sheltered and conservative to the point where it can become psychosis like can set in. Like it's just that harmful to one's psyche. And that happens a lot nowadays too, with this idea of repression and oppression in many different ways. And the film is really touching upon that, but just the way she shot it was just so incredibly haunting. It felt like, like almost surreal at times. I want to say who shot the film, because she didn't work with who I thought she worked with, because she worked with Harris Savides a few times, and this was not one of those times who shot the movie. She shot the film with Edward Lockman, who did actually a lot of Todd Haynes' work. That's interesting. Far From Heaven, Carol, I'm Not There, stuff like that. But I just thought it would have been him. But yeah, I really liked the film. And the film also has stars Kathleen Turner, James Woods in it, Josh Hartnett, Scott Glenn, Danny DeVito's in the film. This is a film that's another film that I was waiting years and years and years for this to finally come out on Blu-ray, and it did finally come out on Blu-ray through Criterion a few years ago, and it was one of the first ones I bought as soon as it came out, because I just had to have it. So that's the Virgin Suicides.
Yes. Yeah, I it's been a while since I've seen it. I saw it. I got it on DVD still. I need to get the Blu-ray. All right. Let's see. Let's go to something that's somewhat new. How about District 9 from Neil Blomkamp?
Probably his best film.
It's definitely his best
place
film.
To start. Yeah. He only has 3, so.
Well, he's been making a lot of short films.
I guess that's true. But I guess I was talking about.
I know, yeah, he's got 3 features. He's almost made a couple other features. He can't seem to get the luck to get anything started again, because I don't know if it's.
Yeah, he was supposed to do a Halo movie. He was supposed to
do a RoboCop
an Alien movie. Yeah, an Alien movie, and that never happened. But yeah, go.
District 9, man. I mean, this is a social political sci-fi movie set in, if I'm not mistaken, is it somewhere in Africa, South Africa?
It's South Africa. I think Johannesburg.
Yeah,
I want to say.
And so our main character played by Sholto Copley, which I love him. Sholto Copley. I can't do the voice. That was terrible.
His voice is, sometimes you can't understand what he says. Yeah, it's very thick accent.
He's a very, very good actor. He's done, I think, has he done all 3 of his movies? He's played a character in all 3 of his movies, I think, right?
Was he in the third? Was he in Chappie?
Didn't he play the bad guy that was coming after him in Chappie?
Yes, he's in it. Yeah, he is in it.
So basically, in District 9, you have these aliens that have kind of, you could say, shipwrecked on Earth, and they're hovering above the city. And so, of course, we see this big floating thing in the sky. We got to go investigate it, and we get in there, and basically, this is kind of an immigrant thing. This is kind of an allegory for immigrants, and how do we deal with that reality where we got people from other countries, refugees coming in, and how do we have a responsibility to help them find their life, or help them move on, or help so it's got a lot of that in there. And then it kind of reverses it on our main character and puts him kind of in the shoes of the people he's been kind of help oppressing. So it's a very, first of all, striking visual movie for the budget. I think Neil Blomkamp had help from Peter Jackson to help, with the effects and stuff, and it's amazing. The effects for what the budget is really good. The aliens, they look kind of like cockroaches, but it's a cool sci-fi original movie. I know I can tell Blomkamp's tried to continue that style through his other movies, but they haven't hit as well as the first District 9 did. Elysium with Matt Damon and Chappie just haven't been as good. Though I kind of enjoy the movies okay, but
right.
District 9 to me is kind of a modern sci-fi classic to me. But yeah.
Well, I remember watching it in the theater. Came out in 2009. Yeah, the movie has a $30 million budget, which is like nothing.
Some indie movies, some like kind of indie-ish movies have that budget,
Yeah, I know, and they have no
big special effects,
or alien effects or anything like that. Yeah, but his movies always have a political element to them.
Yeah,
and sometimes it's a little forced, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's done really well, like in District 9. Chappie, coincidentally, Charlotte Copley did the voice of Chappie in Chappie.
Yeah, okay.
So that's where he comes in. But yeah, I think this movie was produced by Peter Jackson or a Peter Jackson production company or something like that. Yeah, I can't disagree with you more in terms of the praise you have for it. For me, let's see. Oh, so many choices, so many choices. Let me go with, I'll go with a film that is considered perhaps the best of this person's filmography, kind of going along with what you just did. And I'm going to go with John Singleton's Boys in the Hood.
Cool.
Boys in the Hood, I mean, John Singleton did make other films other than Boys in the Hood, but Boys in the Hood was his debut film, and it's considered his best. And it's an amazing, I would say, thematically deep film about like urban life, like African American urban life, in the late 80s, early 90s. But what makes it so strong is that it was so real and that it still has relevance. The film came out in 1991. It was his first film, and then he did like Poetic Justice and then Higher Learning and other movies, Shaft and whatnot. But this is definitely the highlight of his career. This film is kind of the starting point for a lot of actors, specifically like Morris Chestnut as well as Cuba Gooding Jr. I mean, Ice Cube, I don't think he's the best actor in the world, but this was kind of like the very early start for his acting career that he's kind of like, taken and gone with more than I would say his music career, which kind of faded a little bit in the background of his life. Angela Bassett's in the film. This is a film that's dealing with just trying to survive in the, for lack of a better term, the Crenshaw ghetto of Los Angeles. You know what I mean? Just, that type of hardcore urban life and how suffocating it is and how entrapping it is and how you try really hard to escape it, but you keep falling back into it. I mean, it chronicles the life of these young kids and just, the tragedies and traumatic things that they have to go through. I think Lawrence Fishburne's in the film. He plays Cuba Gooding Jr.'s father, and he's just absolutely fantastic in the movie as well. But yeah, Boys in the Hood is one that I always highly recommend. There's Boys in the Hood and there's Menace to Society.
Yeah.
These films are like, I think, kind of interlocked with one another because they came out, around the same era. But Menace to Society is almost like I wouldn't say less romanticized version of Boys in the Hood. It's just a different version of Boys in the Hood. You know what I mean? It's different, yet it's also its own thing. And those two films are dealing with a lot of similar themes, but approaching it in their own way, if that makes any sense at all. And I think, I'm trying to see, if that, yeah. Speaking of which, I think Menace to Society
It's a
is the
debut
first
too.
film of the Hughes brothers
Yeah.
as well. So
Which went on to
that kind
do.
of works
They
hand in hand.
ended up doing what? Dead
I just did
Presidents.
I just did a double
It's
whammy,
okay.
I guess.
I wasn't going to talk about that movie, so.
Okay. They're both great.
Yeah. All right.
And also, rest in peace, John Singleton.
Yes,
who just
we
passed
lost him
away
just
a year ago.
Yeah, yep.
I think it was the 1 year anniversary a couple of days ago.
Oh, really? Wow. I'm gonna go old school. I'm gonna go back to the '60s, 1962.
Ooh, I'm excited.
A little movie called Knife in the Water from Roman Polanski.
Oh wow! I did not see this one coming.
Wow. That shows how much you think of me. Thank you. No, but Knife in the Water. This is this is an intimate movie from Roman Polanski. You got a couple that are on their way to have a sailing trip, and then they decide to pick up a hitchhiker. And basically, this is a movie about, I would say, as we call it today, toxic masculinity kind of movie.
Yeah, it's definitely a film like about like male ego and combative nature of it.
Yeah, and these three go out on the water, and basically it's a male dick swinging contest the whole time.
I was gonna say it really is.
Mostly from the husband, but it goes both ways, and then it kind of. I don't want to ruin the movie, but it kind of gets to a point where the childishness of everything goes in a like dangerous direction, and I thought this was a very smart debut movie, and some of the shot compositions were very good, and for a first movie. I mean, I was like, and the choice to shoot on water. Spielberg would tell you this. It's not easy. It sucks, and so most of this movie being on the water had to have been a challenge. Though of course they're not doing anything big, nothing very challenging in the sense of like the actions, but still, I mean, having to be on the water for hours at a time to shoot is not an easy thing. So
I wonder how hard it is just to keep visual continuity on shooting on water.
I would think that it's easier to fool the audience.
Especially, well, I think it helps the black and white. I think helps.
It does help,
because you don't have to deal with like I guess you do have to deal with lighting and stuff that, but you don't have to deal with like colors and matching colors and the way
certain
sunlight
landscapes
hits differently.
can just seem the same. Like
right.
you can fool the audience a little bit. You're not paying attention so much. But I thought this was a very, very good, strong debut. I hadn't seen it until recently, but I really enjoy it. Yeah.
That's a great choice. I did not even think of that in film.
Boom! I beat it.
Boom! Kind of. I'm reeling right now. Steven threw a hell of a punch. Let me.
Come on, hit me back. Hit me back, Andrew.
Come on, hit me back. Come on now. Oh man. I'll do it now.
Okay.
Night of the Hunter. Night of the Hunter is the only film directed by actor Charles Laughton, so I guess it is the debut.
Yeah.
Came out in 1955, starring one of our favorites, Robert Mitchum. I just actually watched Robert Mitchum in another movie the other night. He just seems to pop up every so often, but it stars Robert Mitchum, Shelley Winters, Lillian Gish. This movie. It's so hard to describe this movie because it doesn't do it justice. Let's see. Let me read this synopsis. A religious fanatic marries a gullible widow whose young children are reluctant to tell him where their real father hid $10,000 he'd stolen in a robbery. That sounds like a kind of generic plot, but the way in which Robert Mitchum plays the character of Harry Powell is so insanely sadistic and haunting, frightening, and he's just like this he's almost not even real. Like he's just like a haunting, like I would say a creature almost. The way he hunts these children down throughout the film, the stuff he does, just his maniacal preaching, because he's like talking about like God and the Bible and stuff, but of course he's also a sadistic, terrible person. It's just a wild movie, and it's a film that needs to be talked about more. Just because I know cinephiles know it, but it's just a crazy movie that came out mid-1950s. I think the movie was way ahead of its time in terms of like its content and just its tone, and unfortunately, when the film came out, it didn't do well. The critics didn't like it, people didn't like it, and it's only like in the modern times that people I think have come to really appreciate its brilliance. And unfortunately, since it didn't do well, Charles Laughton, the actor, never got to make another movie after that. Yeah. That's one of the downsides of making a movie that's even though it's not bad, if it's not received well and it's your first movie, they're not going to give you another chance to make another one. Or maybe that person won't want to make another one.
Yeah, at least it won't be as easy. But apparently it's worthy enough that they're apparently going to make a remake. So
I did see that.
So maybe that will, though I'm typically on the other side of this where I don't like, I'm not that I'm completely against remakes, because there's some good remakes. But typically if a remake comes out and it's worse than the original, it can deter people from even seeing the original. That's my problem with remakes.
That does happen.
But in this case, maybe even its existence can maybe shed some light on the original.
I like that. I like that optimism.
I'm trying to be.
I mean, I'm kind of the same way. Yeah, I'll maybe give it a try, but I understand.
You're gonna watch it. You're gonna watch it like I'm.
It depends on who they get to play the Robert Mitchum role.
Didn't we talk about this?
Oh yeah, didn't I say Michael Shannon?
You said Michael Shannon. That's perfect.
Yeah. Talk about somebody who can go crazy really well.
Yeah. We already cast the movie for him.
I know, he already
did it, man. It's over.
Just give us the money.
It's over,
we'll do it for
motherfucker. All right.
Go on. So what's your choice?
My next one, I'll go, it's somewhat new. In the last 20 years. He's a guy that's become very popular as a director. He's doing some big budget stuff now. But when he started out, like a lot of them, they did a very small movie. And this was a small horror movie called Saw, and it's James Wan.
I know who you're going with. Yeah, the good one.
Yeah, the good Saw movie, the first one. Which some of the other ones are fun. I think they get steadily more ridiculous, but
they're doing another one. Yeah, it never ends. It never ends.
But the original Saw movie, which I'm pretty sure he did a short film of this before, and then he did a feature. It stars, what is it? What's his name? Cary Elwes. Yeah, and some others. But basically, if you know the story of Saw, people get stuck in a room, and then it's basically they got to find their way out of the room through different clues and games. And I don't want to spoil the movie, but it's kind of the movie I think that set us off in the 2000s for that what they now call the torture porn era of movies.
Yeah, this idea of horror movies just showing extreme
trying to
gore.
Push the envelope with gratuitous violence.
Yeah, and it's not like the horror genre hadn't delved into that area before, because they certainly had. But it became.
But typically that was in B movies.
Yeah, it became much more mainstream, I think, in the 2000s. At least I think for our generation.
Yeah. You didn't see, you got Hostel, and you got other movies like that of that ilk that would come out, and I just think that the thing that stays with me, of course, is the ending of that movie. The way that it all goes down, really, I think that makes that an ingenious horror movie. To me, it's one of the great horror debuts. It defined a generation, definitely.
Good choice. good choice. Another out of the box choice, but I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go back in time now, back to 1966. Now I'm gonna go with Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
Yes,
which is
I knew.
the debut film.
It's on my list, and I was like, I'm gonna
Nichols.
let Andrew have that one because I know he's gonna like that. He's gonna talk.
Yeah, what's interesting because I went back to make sure because what is interesting is that Mike Nichols came out with The Graduate in 1967, which was the year right after that, and that's the movie that I think people remember Mike Nichols for a lot. But Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is an amazing movie. It's talk about, acting and dialogue and all that stuff. It's a movie that stars Elizabeth Taylor as well as Richard Burton, and they had an on again, off again real life relationship. They were married, divorced, married, divorced, married. You know what I mean? So they had a lot of interpersonal chemistry, and they were in a lot of films together as well. But the film also stars George Segal and Sandy Dennis, and this film is very play-like. And basically, it's based on a play actually. It's based on a play that you can actually buy, because I've been wanting to buy it for years. But basically, a bitter aging couple with the help of alcohol never really helps in most situations, use their young house guests to fuel anguish and emotional pain towards each other over the course of a distressing night. It's one of those films that everything takes place over like a 24-hour period or one night, and it's just these two couples getting gradually more drunk as the night goes on, and all of these emotions and hatred and anguish and everything just gets poured out as alcohol tends to do, and just the dialogue is just back and forth and bitter, and the whole movie is very toxic and very if you're a nervous person to watch people arguing, this may not be the best film for you. But yeah, I absolutely love it. Elizabeth Taylor, I think, is one of the best actresses ever, and she's just fully on display in this film. And what they did, though, is since Elizabeth Taylor is considered probably one of the most beautiful women or actresses ever, is they really dressed her down to make her to make her look older, to make her look more less attractive, to make her look more run down, if you will, to really just play up her anger and just her emotions and all that kind of stuff, and it worked very, very well. So Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is another great film that I don't think gets the highlight I think that other Mike Nichols films do.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is what people have to remember about directing is, some would say the philosophy is a big part, one of the biggest part of their job is to get performances out of actors. That's their main thing, that their gift if they have it, and of course for your first movie to get them performances is amazing. But okay, I guess I'll go. I'm gonna get pretty new. This one's really new. This came out a couple years ago, and this is from Boots Riley. Sorry to bother you.
Good debut.
Yeah, very good debut. I when this came out, man, it was definitely in my top 10 of the year. It's got it's a satirical, it's a satirical look at kind of our workforce, how big corporations kind of use up people and run them dry and just for financial gain. I think that the way that this takes a look at that is not only hilarious, people will remember this movie for its kind of the gimmick of how to sell the movie, which was that the black people had did their white voices to help sell to get further in their company, which was of course the big thing that drew me in too. I thought it looked hilarious, but not only is it hilarious, but it's also very dark. Some of the imagery and some of this stuff is dark, and then it gets very weird, surreal to an extent. So I thought this was a very ambitious and original debut. And It's one. It's one. It makes me want. Just talking about it now makes me. I want to pop it in tonight, maybe.
A rewatch.
Yeah, it's been a while since I watched it, so I kind of want to watch it again.
I've seen it twice, and it definitely shows. It's so ambitious, and so interesting, and so allegorical that it's you have to watch it multiple times to kind of
catch all the little
most
things.
of it. Yeah. It's commenting on racism, capitalism, all kind of stuff.
Danny Glover's in there.
Danny Glover is in there.
I was forgetting the main actor's name for some reason. It's
Lakeith Stanfield.
I love him. That dude needs to be.
He's showing up in.
He needs to be starring in a lot of stuff. I wanted to see the movie he had this year that came out this year, The Romance.
Oh, I have to see it.
I can't remember what the photograph.
I think you are right. Yeah, I think that was supposed to. That came out around the time everything kind of shut down.
I missed seeing it, but I heard it was pretty good.
Weren't able to see it. Yeah, the photograph.
Yeah. I love him as an actor. Since another movie that we might talk about later. There's a few movies. Okay. There's a few movies. He's been in some other movies, but there's one particular one he was in that we might talk about later. So.
Oh, okay. That's what we like to call a tease. A tease. But I'm gonna go a little bit under the radar now, and it just has become just because it has this person has become a director that I've got into all of her work recently, and it's honestly one of the best, like, just not discoveries, but like explorations of kind of a person's filmography that I've done in recent times. And this is Celine Sciamma's first film, Water Lilies, which came out in 2007. And this film, what struck me so much about this film is because I watched it after I had seen her newest film, which is Portrait of a Woman on Fire. Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And having watched that and then going back and going through her filmography, you see that she's just perfecting her craft through every movie. You know what I mean? Like she's exploring certain avenues that are similar throughout her films, but she's touching on just enough differently to explore new avenues within it. And it's really fascinating. But her first film, Water Lilies, is a film about kind of first like love and like sexual awakening amongst like adolescent girls and whatnot and women, and just the complications and the emotions that go through all of that and the confusing time that leads to. And it's a universal thing because all of us at that time growing up and going through adolescence were confused about all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? So she's hitting on a bunch of universal things, but she's also hitting on specific things that specifically cater to what young women go through. And the way in which she layers her films is done through such subtlety and such nuance that it doesn't hit you, it doesn't bowl you over. You know what I mean? Like some people who deal with this, like who deal with elements like this, like they just hit you over the head with it, and it's like obvious, like, oh, here it is, all in your face. You know, this is what I'm trying to tell you what this movie's about. Her films are not like that at all. Not even Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Like it's just filled with just subtlety, and that's tough to do with for a lot of filmmakers, because filmmakers sometimes specifically have a point or have specific messages they want to get over in their films, and they'll, kind of overcompensate to do that. But not her. She just kind of lays it all out for you nice and easily and digestible. And I just really love that. So her first film is called Water Lilies, and I highly recommend people see it.
Yeah, I need to check them out. Where you been watching them?
All of her movies are on the Criterion Channel streaming service. Cool. Water Lilies, Tomboy, Girlhood. Portrait of a Lady on Fire is not there yet, but since it's coming out through Criterion, I have to assume that
it'll be there eventually. Yeah, but yeah, I want to check out her other stuff. Portrait of the Lady on Fire was arguably the best movie of last year. So
yeah, it was both on our top.
It was
5.
Yeah, it was our. I think it was both our number 2s.
It was both our number 2s.
So yeah, I need to check them other ones out. All right, I'm gonna go really old school on you here.
Okay.
Mr. Francois Truffaut, 400 Blows.
There we go. This is Film School 101, people.
This is one of the main
We are your
ones.
instructors.
Yes, this is one of the ones you really kind of need to watch, guys. It's kind of one of the flagship movies of the French New Wave. And, this is about a young boy kind of going through, it's very much just a coming of age kind of movie, a young child that's kind of neglected by his parents and kind of just goes out and does his own thing. He gets into petty crime, kind of just learning things through experiences just on the street and just doing, it's not a very plot heavy movie. It's just a movie about, it's very experiential movie. And the performance of the kid, one of the great young, child performances, Jean-Pierre Ledard, he's fantastic. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure most people know, film people know, Francois Truffaut was a critic and, very much, this was a whole new movie. We have a French New Wave episode you can go back and listen to.
We do.
And
nice plug.
And that whole era is about a bunch of critics getting together to want to become filmmakers and show that they could do it. Godard and who am I forgetting? Godard and
Godard, Truffaut, Claude Chabrol.
There's a bunch of them.
Melville was in there.
But
Agnes Varda.
Yeah, Agnes. She wasn't a critic though, was she?
No, but she was part of
definitely
that
part
group.
of that. But like the main critic ones, that's kind of how I was trying to hit on, is that they all kind of just decided they wanted to start making movies and yeah, I mean it's a very naturalistic, honest movie and one of the greatest debuts of all time. I mean
I can't disagree with you. Like I said, it's Film School 101. I mean, its counterpart, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. This is not my choice. Can't steal my choice. But yeah, Breathless, which is Godard's first film, they kind of go hand in hand in terms of starting the new wave. But I would say that that's kind of where you start when it comes to the French New Wave. But listen to the episode that we did about French New Wave. But yeah, so Breathless is a debut film as well. That's a great debut film. I also want to go with, I guess I'll stick with, I'll stick in French cinema. And I want to go with, if I can find, of course, IMDb, you kill me sometimes.
Jesus.
Because I'm trying to find the specific film so that I don't know. And of course, they're going to make me spell out the person's name. But it's Jacques Demy's first film, Lola.
Okay.
And it can be found in the Jacques Demy box set from Criterion. And of course, I had to spell out the whole Jacques Demy's name because IMDb couldn't find it. But it's his first feature film. He had a bunch of shorts beforehand. Came out coincidentally 1961. So we're talking about the same era of French cinema, the French New Wave. He was part of the French New Wave as well. And I bring up Jacques Demy because his films were different than I would think than Godard or Truffaut's, but they were all still part of this new French New Wave. So the plot of Lola is a bored young man meets his former girlfriend, now a cabaret dancer and single mother, and soon finds himself falling back in love with her. And the film kind of deals with all of those things, but it famously has the film famously has a song that I think she sings called is it C'est moi, c'est Lola, which is like it's me, it's Lola or something. I think that's what that translates into. But that's Jacques Demy's first film, and the reason why I also bring up Jacques Demy is because I'm going to be stealing the spotlight here for a second because I do want to mention Agnes Varda's first film as well.
So and three movies in a row, okay?
Yeah, the reason why because you got to kind of bundle these together. Because
once again, he's his obsessiveness to have a certain order of things.
I know. It's like I'm grouping everything to kind of get everything in order. But Agnes Varda's first film, which came out in 1955, which kind of technically, in my opinion, predates the French New Wave, but it's a French New Wave film, is La Pointe Courte, which is a film about following the story of a couple who goes to a small French fishing village to try to solve the problems of their deteriorating marriage. And what is interesting about La Pointe Courte is that it's shot in almost like a documentary style. It's very cinema verite, very guerrilla style filmmaking, and which is very similar to kind of the way the French New Wave was, which was just kind of this new form of filmmaking. And the reason why I mentioned Agnes Varda along with Jacques Demy is because they were married. They were married to one another at one point. Sadly, they've both passed away. Agnes Varda passing away most recently. But what I really liked is that the reason why I bundle these two movies together is because oftentimes Agnes Varda would work with Jacques Demy on his films, and I think she had a hand in writing that song, "C'est moi, c'est Lola," and it's just kind of interesting how those two kind of pair together. And then, of course, you got all of the other people around at the time during the French New Wave. And yeah, a lot of first films were happening back then of like these titan people that you would go into to learn about in film school decades later. But they all had to start somewhere. And they all kind of started around that 1950s, 60s era, which was kind of a changing time in movies.
Yeah.
But Stephen, I've talked too much. Please do like 5
it's okay. Of these. Yeah. Jeez, why don't you take a break and go put your movies on your shelf somewhere?
I know, I'm going to lose my voice during this episode.
All right, let's go to somebody that we both enjoy here. This isn't too old. I think this is from the 90s. Mr. Rian Johnson's Brick.
Nice.
Yeah, great first film. But if you've been listening to the podcast, we're both big film noir fans. And this was kind of Rian Johnson's out of the gate, his kind of homage to the film noir genre, and it's set in modern times of that time, and it's set in a high school, and you got Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who's this kind of playing the detective of the story. A girl goes missing, and he's kind of on the trail to find her, and it's so unique because of how it uses old school storytelling in a new era. We have what we call neo-noirs that very much have some of them conventional noir things wrapped up in a more modern time, but the way they use it in this movie, it's like they're making fun of old school film noir. They just they talk very fast, and they say certain language that isn't language you typically hear people of today how they talk, and just how he films the movie. He hides certain moments away from the audience until the right time, and it's just a really, I think, entertaining and unique debut from somebody who is basically hated now.
I don't. We both don't agree with.
We don't agree with it.
Sentiment. Yeah. Brick came out in 2005.
Oh, 2005. Okay.
Yeah, so not quite the 90s. Rian Johnson's not that old.
Whatever. Yeah, it's close enough.
You were close enough. It's not a trivia show. But talk about film noir homage. It's set in like the high school setting, like teenagers, like in a film noir, plot, which is fascinating to me because those two, it's like, the old school talking and cadence of the film noir language, but with like young teenagers. And it's just like those two things shouldn't mesh with one another, yet they do mesh so well. And a lot of that has to do with I think the screenplay by Rian Johnson, and just I loved Brick. I'm talking about a movie I waited years to finally get the Blu-ray for here in the U.S. Region 1 land. It took forever for that to come out. But yeah, I can't agree with you more on that. And that's actually one I didn't even think about when it came to just first time movies. But let me go to a couple of the other main ones I want to hit before we get too long. Just quickly, Clerks, Kevin Smith's Clerks from 1994. I mean, I don't even need to look up this movie on IMDb. I know it so well. I mean, I've watched it so many times, and I'm just a big Kevin Smith fan in general. But it's a movie that famously he made for like $29,000, $30,000. Took just did it all on via credit card and stuff. And it's a movie set in a convenience store, and it's just about the day
in the life
of, like, these convenience store clerks and just like their unique like interactions with one another. You've got like these Jay and Silent Bob characters. It's the origin of the Jay and Silent Bob characters where they're just sitting outside the store like pretty much selling weed and stuff, and just hanging out. And then like in the like you have like the slacker friend who works at the place next to you who doesn't give a shit about his job in Randall. And then you've got Dante who's going through like this romance life, young like 20-something life crisis when it comes to his romantic life and all that kind of stuff. And what's so fascinating about it is that it just feels very, very natural and, real. Like, these are just people talking about stuff. Like, at one point they're talking about Star Wars, and you know what I mean, and stuff like that, and just like the way in which it's just portrayed in this 16 millimeter black and white low budget style became kind of the template for a lot of people, filmmakers, or aspiring filmmakers after that, who want to like get into movies. A lot of those movies pulled the veil back of what filmmaking can be, and how you can achieve it. You don't need to have studio backing. You don't need to have $1 million. You just need, a camera and some people and a script and location, and you can do it. I mean, even today, you don't even need all of that. That's how filmmaking has come so far. And a lot of the filmmakers at that time, I think, had that low budget guerrilla style. I mean, I'm not gonna do a double one again, but I'll just say this: watch El Mariachi by Robert Rodriguez. That movie was made for like less than $10,000, and it's just another first film from that era.
Yeah, guys like Kevin Smith, from that era. A lot of these directors are, film buffs. A lot of what they, even the substance of the context of the movie, the stuff in the movie. Contents of the movie is got pop culture in it, because at that time movies were coming a lot more regularly available. You could get VHSs, you could find ways to watch movies. So now that was bleeding into actual films by filmmakers, where they would talk about Star Wars, or they would talk about other things and really get into it. And it would be a part of the conversation. Right. And that's, I think, one of the unique stamps of that era, and with a movie like Clerks.
Yeah, and also the idea of like not having to go to film school.
Yeah.
To do it. I mean, Kevin Smith did go to film school, but he went to like a
night class or something.
Program.
Like it was.
No, it was like a 1-year program. I think in like Vancouver somewhere. But someone like Tarantino didn't go to film school or anything or anything like that. Yeah, Steve. But what's your choice, Steven?
All right. So many choices here.
Yeah, there's a lot. At one point we're probably just gonna end up.
We'll just run down a list of some stuff, but
we're getting to that point.
One of the big ones, and this is one I brought up to Andrew before when we just talked about doing this episode. Is if anybody knows me, and you probably saw my post recently of my Satyajit Ray shirt.
Nice. There we go.
His first movie, Pather Panchali, I think is how you say it, and which is the first movie in the Apu trilogy, and I think originally this movie came out in 1955, but I don't think it got to the United States till 58. It took a few years, but this is very much a kind of a coming of age story itself, centering on a young child Apu, where they live in kind of a impoverished area of Bengali or Calcutta area, maybe.
Yeah, I wouldn't say. I don't know if it's impoverished. It's rural. I would say more rural.
They're definitely poor.
Well, I think they live in like the countryside.
Yeah, but I think they're poor. I mean, the father is left home to look for to work for money, and he leaves for months in the movie. They don't have money. I mean, they're borrowing money from a neighbor that they owe money from, and they get so poor that then, though the neighbor hates them, decides to still help them anyway. Right. So they're poor. They're living in the home that they have is a generational home. They have it because it's their families, but it's falling apart. But he has a sister. Apu has a sister who's older that is kind of I guess you would call her a little bit of a rebel. She goes off and does her own things, and a lot of times gets accused of stealing things, and sometimes actually does steal things because they're poor. But yet this is a beautiful movie, and I recently just read a book it's the memoirs of Satyajit Ray about this time making the Apu trilogy, and it's very, is not as detailed as I think they would have liked. He finished the memoirs, and then he passed away, and they were looking for the final copies, but apparently they got stolen, and so his wife had to cobble together his notes to kind of create this book. And there's a lot of interesting stuff about how he tried to get this made, and I would very much recommend reading, getting that book and listening to it or reading it. But it really inspired me to want to do this episode, because there's, how much trouble a lot of filmmakers have to make their first movie, especially in a time where, it was even harder, to get that equipment, to get the people together to do it. Nowadays, it's a lot easier to get in contact with them people, but I find this to be such and this movie has a history of almost disappearing too, it almost, the negatives almost got burned in a fire. So, I mean, this movie almost was lost, and
right.
It's a gift that it's still around. It's a fantastic movie, and the trilogy also, the other two movies are fantastic. Yeah. Satyajit Ray.
Yeah, talk about a discovery for cinephiles, I would say. Discovering the films of him are kind of one of the great joys of, I think, exploring cinema. But, yeah, I couldn't say enough about it. We're definitely going to do an episode.
We got to do an episode on Satyajit Ray.
Yeah, probably one
or
day.
Or Satyajit Ra.
Yeah, well, it's either Ray or Rai.
Right,
I don't know
people... Apparently we say it wrong, but
we may have been pronouncing it wrong this whole time, and we've been saying it for like 3 years.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just how we say his name is spelled is how we say Ray.
Yeah, so mispronunciation by us, but not intentional.
Not intentional, not any disrespect. Because we love his films, and yeah, he's a filmmaker that is very much influenced by world cinema, not just but he was trying to make movies that were not like Bollywood.
Yeah, that's the thing with his films, even like his later, even throughout his filmography, is when everyone thinks of Indian cinema, they think of Bollywood, which in Bollywood's gigantic. It's probably like the second biggest industry,
film industries
in the world. But his films are not Bollywood; they're just so real and so down to earth and so unique. Yeah, I couldn't agree with Stephen more about this. I mean, the next one. Yeah, this the next one I'm going to bring up. I want to say it counts. It counts for me. I think it counts for a lot of people. Oh,
Jesus, here we go.
And that is Orson Welles' Citizen Kane.
It doesn't count. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
And the reason why I want to say it count, he did technically do a film beforehand, but I think it was just, yeah, I don't know. He did do technically a film beforehand called Too Much Johnson, which is a hilarious name if you think about it. What's interesting is just reading the trivia on that film is like the only known copy of this film was said to have been destroyed in a fire at Orson Welles' villa in Madrid, Spain in 1970. However, as of 2013, and I remember this, a copy showed up in Pordenone, Italy, and it was restored and premiered in October of 2013. So, I don't know. We're splitting hairs here, but we can make up any rules we want because it's our podcast.
Well, so we don't want to lie, do we?
But it's like the film didn't exist, but now it does exist.
Go ahead and talk about your Orson Welles movie.
Yeah, had we done this episode 10 years ago, we'd be saying that Citizen Kane was his first film.
Just talk about Citizen Kane.
Fine. Good, I got the green light from
God
Steve.
damn it.
So Citizen Kane, considered by some the greatest film ever made, is one of my all-time favorite films. May or may not be the premiere film of one Orson
Get
Welles.
over it. Just talk about it.
Yeah, starring Joseph Cotten, Agnes Moorehead, Orson Welles himself, and it's a movie about the life and death of the tycoon Charles Foster Kane, and specifically surrounding what his last words were, which was Rosebud, and you find these like reporters and people trying to find out what does that word mean. So you just go through this film and it's all in like flashback form of his life, and they're trying to piece together his life, and you're seeing his life. And man, it's a film. The way it's structured is just absolutely phenomenal. The acting, the directing, the way it's shot is so unique and so ahead of its time that so many people have taken from it. It's one of the most influential films of all time in terms of movie making. And it was the screenplay was written by Herman J. Mankiewicz from the Mankiewicz family. If you know Joseph L. Mankiewicz, who was a great director. It's just I can't even put into words how much I want to say about this movie without actually going through a whole diatribe about it. But just to say it's one of my favorites of all time. There's a reason why it's talked about amongst the best films of all time. Steven, was that short enough for you?
That's pretty good.
I want to make sure to get it.
Yeah,
in.
you got.
But I had to preface.
I'm surprised you haven't. I'm gonna let you talk about this one. I got it on my list. Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
What is interesting is I don't think that's his first film.
Is that not his first film? I thought that's what I saw.
I saw.
Did the internet lie to me?
I don't know. Did the internet lie to you? Because when I went to his IMDb, I looked and it had some stuff beforehand. Yeah, I guess you're right, because he had a video documentary. I guess maybe that doesn't count. And then he had a video short, and then a short, and then I guess Sex, Lies, and Videotape. You know what? We'll bend the rules. Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
We're bent the rules for goddamn Citizen Kane. No,
I mean, that's Citizen Kane. But come on now.
But no, I mean, yeah, this is Steven Soderbergh's
one of my favorites,
first movie, first feature film, and it's once again another movie from the '90s that very much was very influential and it's a movie. It's good. I like it. Okay. It's not one of my favorite. Let me put it out there. I'm not a huge Soderbergh fan. I know Andrew likes him more than me. But
I do.
Yeah, I do. I do really like it.
I do a lot.
But but it's definitely it's got its influence. Once again, I'm forgetting names of actors. It's
I can do it for you.
Yeah.
James Spader, Andy McDowell, Peter Gallagher, Laura San Giacomo. It's a movie that when I first saw it years ago, kind of blew me away, and I've still seen it a few times, and I love this film because of just yet again thematic depth and just performances and just carry this film and make it so interesting and so much more interesting than I think the plot would generally lead you to believe. For example, I mean, if you hear the title "Sex, Lies, and Videotape," you're automatically intrigued.
For
the most part. I mean, the film is about a sexually repressed woman's husband is having an affair with her sister, and the arrival of a visitor with a rather unusual quote unquote fetish changes everything.
Yeah,
and it's a movie about sex, lies, and there's some videotape involved.
Yeah. Very descriptive, this title.
Very descriptive, but, like, it's also very play-like. The film only takes place in a couple of locations, and it's all about dialogue and character interactions and delving into, sexuality
sexual
and the openness
repression
of it and all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because the sister, because Andy McDowell is the sexually repressed one, but her sister's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
She is extremely sexual in terms of the way she dresses, the way she acts, the way she just, is sexually involved, literally, with her sister's husband. And then you've got James Spader character, who's an old friend, comes to town. He's just also has his own sexual issues with himself as well. And it's just this exploration of all of these things and the interactions with the characters, and I still love this movie. I think it's a great debut, and I believe it was a big it
was a success,
like sensation, not sensation, but like a Sundance hit, one of those hits. And I would also group Soderbergh into the group of Rodriguez, Tarantino, Kevin Smith, all those people from the 90s, that whole independent era, which I think we did a whole episode on.
Yes, we did.
If I remember
we
correctly.
did. Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, do you want to just run down let's just list some stuff? And we'll go back and forth. Do a few, and I'll do a few.
Yeah, sure. problem.
there's Jordan Peele's Get Out, which was recent.
It's a good
very
premiere,
good opener. Ex Machina, Alex Garland, another good
I
one.
love that movie.
Nightcrawler from Dan Gilroy.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Well, I've got a couple of older school ones. The Maltese Falcon, John Huston's premiere, 1940. Talk about quintessential noir. Mad Max, George Miller's premiere.
Course.
Talk about low budget
Australian
filmmaking. Australian, like they put those cars together with like tape and wires.
Yeah.
Blood Simple, the Coen Brothers premiere. This is Spinal Tap, which is Rob Reiner's directorial debut. And a big one that I think we'll save for a much bigger episode later when we can really get into the franchise, and that is Evil Dead, which is Sam Raimi's premiere, I believe.
Yeah.
Steven?
Yep. That's right.
And let's see. Ivan's Childhood, which is Andrei Tarkovsky's premiere. That's a good film.
I still need to see that one.
Yeah, Hard 8, which is Paul Thomas Anderson's premiere film, is also really, really good. The Hunger, Steve McQueen.
Yeah.
That's a film.
Yeah. Terrence Malick's Badlands.
Good one.
Of course, Spielberg's Dole, which was a TV movie, but still very good. Michael Mann's Thief.
That's a good film. Everyone just talks about Heat. No one remembers Thief.
Yeah. You got Thank You for Smoking from Jason Reitman.
Oh,
that's
a
pretty good one, I think. Pretty interesting, kind of satirical about the smoking industry.
Oh yeah, and like lobbying. And stuff like that.
What about the Iron Giant from Brad Bird?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I've got another couple here. George Washington by David Gordon Green. Yep. Everyone just think he just does raunchy comedies and now doing the Halloween movies. But no, he started off in the indie world. Tony Scott's The Hunger is really, really good.
Yeah, I liked the vampire movie. Yeah.
Yeah, the vampire movie from the early 80s. James L. Brooks' Terms of Endearment. Talk about coming out the gate hot with a Best Picture winner. That's also really, really good. Let's see. We also have Shawshank Redemption.
Oh yeah, of course.
Frank Darabont. It's a small kind of film. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Small little movie.
Let's see. I think that's everything I have on my list. But I got
a few here. Okay. I'll list them off. Donnie Darko, Richard Kelly.
Oh yeah, Richard Kelly. It's maybe his only good film.
Jennifer Kent's The Babadook.
Oh yes.
Spike Jonze's Being John Malkovich.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Ryan Coogler's Fruitville Station. Robert Eggers' The Witch.
What a premiere!
Yeah, Ari Aster's Hereditary. Darren Aronofsky's Pi.
Oh yeah. 3.14.
Yeah. 500 Days of Summer from Mark Webb.
Oh yeah, Mark Webb.
Half Nelson from Ryan Fleck. Which is, Ryan Gosling plays a drug addicted teacher. Yeah, it's really good actually. It's a pretty good little indie movie. Kevin Costner's Dances with Wolves. Some people love that movie. I mean, I like that movie, but it's a.
I still haven't seen.
You've never seen Dances with Wolves?
I owned it on Blu-ray for like 10 years now. Still haven't watched it.
Wow.
Because it's like the director's cut, which is like 3 hours long.
Yeah, it's pretty long, but You watch Stalker, right?
I did watch Stalker, but that movie's amazing. I mean, I have a couple more here.
Yeah, sure.
Barbara Streisand's Yentl, a good film.
Okay.
I would also say, I mean, there's a.
What about Ben Affleck's Gone Baby Gone?
Yeah, Ben Affleck's Gone Baby Gone. Robert Redford's Ordinary People, which also won Best Picture. That's another good one. You know what? Beasts of the Southern Wild is a great debut film for Ben Zetlin, but he hasn't done anything since, which is kind of a shame. Sam Mendes' American Beauty. We all know Kevin Spacey's a piece of shit, but it's a great film. Oh, you don't like that?
I'm not a big. I've never liked that movie that much. No,
I forgot that you don't like that movie. Yeah. A Single Man by Tom Ford. I know Tom Ford's only done 2 movies, but
hadn't he done 3 movies now?
I always thought
he did 3 movies now. Maybe I'm wrong.
you're
I
right.
might be wrong.
Say Anything, Cameron Crowe.
Yes.
Yes, that's a good film. Yeah, we also did.
What about The Girl Walks Home Alone?
Oh yeah, Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. That's
Anna
a great.
Anna Lily Emma Poor.
Anna Lily Amirpour. Yeah.
That's a very interesting vampire movie.
Well, yeah, very interesting. I mean, Danny Boyle's Shallow Grave we didn't mention. We did a whole episode on that.
Yeah, we did a whole episode on that one.
Let's see. I mean, there's some. You know what? I'm gonna say this. I don't know if it's controversial.
This could be the last thing we say.
I know. Can talk about bad dates. I really like George Lucas's THX 1138.
I'll be honest with you. I've never seen it. So
I think it's really good. Also, I mean, it's not his best work. Christopher Nolan's following is also really good. Talking about something that he was experimenting with when it came to like fractured timelines and like non-linear plots that he would then use in Memento pretty well. It kind of is a precursor to that. Yeah. Let's see. I think that's pretty good. Yeah. That's pretty good.
We listed a lot.
Yeah, I think.
Stop searching. Stop searching.
Yeah, I'm still scrolling now. I'm still scrolling.
I'm gonna end it here. That's gonna be it for this episode.
You got. I didn't mention my favorite one.
Jesus.
I gotta do it, Steven.
Do it.
It has to happen. David Lynch's Eraserhead.
Oh yeah, shoot! How did you forget that?
I don't know how I forgot that. That's the one that messed me up the most.
That's like the one.
Yeah, I know.
But cool. All right. Well, that's going to be it for this episode of the Cinema Discovery Project. Where can we find you, Andrew?
You can find me on Twitter at Capzilla06, as well as my YouTube channel, Capzilla Productions.
And you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings, or on Instagram at Cinema Discovery Project. You can find the audio for this podcast on Podbean or at Apple Podcasts. Thank you for listening, and hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.